Hello everyone. First of all, I want to thank you for watching our video. Welcome to Form 4 Additional Mathematics, Chapter 8, Vector. In this video, we are going to discuss on how to understand and use the concept of addition and subtraction of vectors. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to determine the resultant vector of two parallel vectors, determine the resultant vector of two non-parallel vectors using triangle law and parallelogram law, determine the resultant vector of three or more vectors using the polygon law. Now, let's take a look at a situation. Mary is going home by bicycle from school. On the way, Mary stops at a shop and at a restaurant before she reaches home. The path taken by Mary produces a displacement, which is the resultant vector. The resultant vector is produced from addition of a few vectors. Now, let's look at some example on addition and subtraction of parallel vectors. Given vector AB is parallel to vector CD, find the resultant vector of AB plus CD for each of the following. For question A, given vector AB is equal to 3A, CD is equal to 3A. So the resultant vector of AB plus CD is equal to 3A plus 3A equal to 6A. Second example, given AB is equal to 3A and CD is equal to 5A. Therefore, the resultant vector of AB plus CD is equal to 8A. On the third example, given vector AB is equal to 4A and vector CD is equal to negative 3A. So the resultant vector of AB plus CD is equal to A. Now we look at an example of addition and subtraction of non-parallel vectors. Given vector A and vector B, use the given vectors to draw the resultant vectors in the space provided. Now we are looking for resultant vector 2B plus A. First of all, we have to draw 2B followed by vector A. Therefore, the blue line here is the resultant vector. Based on the previous example, the resultant vector can be found by using triangle law. In this example, given vector A, B, and C, we are going to draw the resultant vector in the space provided. First of all, draw 3A followed by negative 2B, and the blue line is the resultant vector. Based on the same vector as the previous example, we are going to draw the resultant vector that involves more than two non-parallel vectors. Given vector A, B, and C, we want to draw the resultant vector of A plus 3B minus 2C. First of all, draw vector A followed by 3B and negative 2C. So the blue line here is the resultant vector. The resultant vector can be determined by using polygon law. So this is another example of addition and subtraction for more than two non-parallel vectors. Given vector A, B and C, we are going to draw the resultant vector in the space provided. First of all, draw negative 2A, vector B, and 3 over 2C. So the blue line here is the resultant vector. Now in this example, the diagram shows vector C and D drawn on a grid paper. Express the given vector E in terms of vectors C and D. To get the resultant vector E, we need to draw vector C followed by vector D. So vector E is the resultant vector of C plus D. Now let's move on to the next example. The diagram shows vector C and D drawn on a grid paper. Express the given vector E in terms of vector C and D. To get the resultant vector E, we need to draw 3D in the opposite direction. So it's negative 3D plus 2C. So vector E is the resultant vector of 2C minus 3D. In this example, the diagram shows vector C and D. Express given vector E in terms of vector C and D. To get the resultant vector E, first of all, we have to draw 3D in opposite direction, that is negative 3D plus negative C. So vector E is negative 3D minus C. Based on the same vectors C and D given, express vector E in terms of vectors C and D. To get the resultant vector E, draw 2D followed by negative 2C. So vector E is equal to 2D minus 2C. So in this exercise, you have to state the resultant vectors for the following. For vector QP is the resultant vector of negative R plus Q plus P. Vector RS is the resultant vector of U minus V plus W. Vector TU is the resultant vector of negative S plus Y plus X. Last but not least, vector VW is the resultant vector of M plus N minus R minus T. Now students, let's challenge your mind. An airplane heads due north at 100 meters per second through a 30 meters per second crosswind blowing from the east to the west. Determine the resultant velocity of the airplane relative to due north. So this is the time to test your understanding concerning concept of addition and subtraction of vectors. Now let's discuss the situation. So this is an airplane heading north at 100 meter per second through 30 meter per second crosswind blowing from east to the west. Therefore, the red line here, represented by vector r, is the resultant velocity of the airplane. So that is the end of this video. I hope this video will help you to understand the concept of addition and subtraction of vectors. Thank you everyone for watching.